Voters have a lot to consider before they cast their ballot next month, choosing the people who will shape policy for years to come, even in Congress. All 435 seats in the U.S. House are up for grabs on November 5th. Today, we are watching some of the biggest and most contested races in our two states. Let's start on the Kansas side in the 3rd Congressional District. Democratic Congresswoman Sharice Davids is being challenged by Republican Prasanth Reddy and Libertarian Steve Roberts. We'll hear from the top two candidates today, starting with the incumbent.
When history called on us, this community answered proudly.
Sharice Davids is now no stranger to politics. Despite changes to the makeup of the 3rd District over the years in the district map, she's beaten Republicans 3 times in a row. The Congresswoman's from an Army family, born in West Germany. She graduated from Leavenworth High School and is one of the first Native American women to ever serve in Congress. She's also the only Democrat in Kansas' congressional delegation. We begin our conversation with the candidate today by getting to the heart of high prices and how to handle the economy. You've acknowledged what we are all seeing right now, especially at the grocery store. Food prices much higher than what they have been. You've said you've been trying to stop price gouging. How do you do that effectively?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. One, we're seeing across the board just people are, like feeling the squeeze. They're getting pinched every which way. Yeah. Some of what we're doing is trying to make sure that, while people are struggling, we're not seeing continued record profits for some of the largest corporations in the world, really. And we want to make sure that folks aren't getting taken advantage of, actually. And that's, again, everything from groceries to things like prescription drugs, making sure that Medicare can negotiate prescription drug prices.
Right. The Inflation Reduction Act, which I know you supported, capped insulin costs at $35 a month. Do you support other price caps outside of the healthcare industry?
Well, I think we'd have to take a real hard look at what any provisions that looked at capping prices for other things outside of, the Medicare program is literally the largest purchaser of prescription drugs in our country, and the ability to cap something like insulin, which has existed for over 100 years, is not seeing new innovations, is saving tons of lives across the country, and making sure that Medicare can negotiate the prescription drug prices is, I think, one of the best ways to not just save lives, but also save taxpayer dollars.
The last time we spoke, you had just made it onto the House Agriculture Committee,
oh, yeah.
Hoping to represent more of your rural constituents because the map had changed. What has come of that?
Oh, man. Well, a couple of things. I've learned a ton. The Farm Bill reauthorization is, we're really in the heat of it. This is something that happens every 5 years, or is supposed to. In anticipation of working on the Farm Bill, I went around to every part of the new 3rd District and got a chance to visit with ag professionals, whether it's farmers, producers, ranchers, livestock. I learned a ton and was able to work on a couple of specific provisions on the ag side. And now we're in the process of doing the hard work of bipartisan negotiation, because the Farm Bill is one of those pieces of legislation that traditionally is bipartisan. Here in Kansas, folks like Bob Dole and Pat Roberts have been leaders in that space for a long time. So I'm just hoping to continue the learning that I'm doing, but also making sure that we actually get a Farm Bill done.
Your opponent has said securing the southern border is one of his top priorities. What do you believe needs to be done? Biden administration has had almost 4 years to deal with it, and there have been issues. So what needs to happen down there, and what would you do if elected to a 4th term?
Yeah, there absolutely have been issues, and I think to pretend otherwise is it's not honest and it's not fair to the voters. I have been one of the House members who have pushed back against my own party on this. We got to make sure, one, that we acknowledge what needs to be done, and we're a sovereign country. We have to have secure borders. I have voted to increase funding to make sure we've got not just the manpower, but also the technology. And then I would say that some of the most concerning stuff that I've seen has been the kind of like political gamesmanship or like partisan bickering. You know, I was actually looking forward to the House taking a hard look and negotiating on the bipartisan immigration reform bill that was making its way through the Senate, and for the former president to say, don't take that up right now because it's better to have it as a campaign issue. I mean, that's exactly the kind of stuff that people are so frustrated with.
How do you break through that partisanship? Because that is, as a minority in the House.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
I mean, it is kind of hard. There are some like very extreme voices in the U.S. House. Right now with the Republican conference, some of those extreme voices, because it's a thin majority, have been able to really slow things down. I keep my head down, I get to work, I try to do everything I can to find ways to work with folks. You know, if it's going to be good for Kansas, things like the Postal Service, Jerry Moran and I have worked together on trying to address issues that the Postal Service is having. I've worked with Jake LaTurner on issues around housing. Housing is a huge issue for a lot of people. Mark Alford and I joined forces to work on a bill that passed out of the Small Business Committee and off the House floor to help make sure that veterans who want to be small business owners or entrepreneurs have access to the resources that they need. I don't agree with them on all the policy matters, but if it's going to be good for Kansas and it's going to be good for our veterans and our states, then yeah, I'm going to work with them on that.